You see that? Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Child Abuse Awareness with Darlene J. Clark. Be a part of the solution instead of part of the problem. I would like to start off with a Bible verse. And we're going to read the one in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 17. Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. Yeah, I hear myself in the background, Charles. Testing, testing, testing. No, I can't now. Okay, that's good. So our guest today is Charles Rogers. He's going to answer questions and answers according to his knowledge. You may beg to differ, but we are not here to argue. We are not here to put down. We are here to get insight into some of these problems, and we need unity amongst ourselves if we're ever going to try to fight this battle against this atrocious thing that's going on. Hello, I see 6 people in the room in here now. Uh, I had told people, Charles, that your code name is Blackstone Lawyer. So people have wondered whether or not you're lawyer stuff. Good morning, Sheila. Good to see you. Thanks for coming. And we're going to try to hold this off for an hour, so because a lot of people do their shows for an hour. So we're just going to try to stop this around 105 or 110. Um, so can you explain to people what a Blackstone lawyer really is?
Well, Blackstone is a legal definition. Blackstone law or common law.
Okay, hold on a minute. I want to make sure everybody can hear me okay over there on Facebook and when he's talking, whether everybody can hear him, basically. If y'all can hear Charles when he talks, please give me a 1. Go ahead, Charles.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, it's a legal definition for one who practices common law or Blackstone law. Let me see, Blackstone commentaries was the American English common law. Justice Blackstone was the justice who wrote the books that Blackstone commentaries, right. And that's what the lawyers used to go by back in the day when they still practiced common law in the courts in the United States. Louisiana was the last state that practiced the common law up into the late 1980s, early 1990s. So I thought it was unique just to develop a code name, right, and use that. I'm not a licensed attorney. If that's what everybody's wondering, even though I've drafted a couple of laws in the state of Georgia. Right. But that's the code name I decided. It was suggested by Governor Hunt after he appointed me in this position over there in Murphy, North Carolina, that afternoon, the 29th of January, 1998.
Y'all, want to tell y'all that StreamYard changes settings on this, so There's a lot of problems with this, so I will be canceling my StreamYard and going through another company to do my lives here, and maybe we won't have issues with hearing. And I want to thank you for what you did. And so, when you also went over there because you helped him, you tried to surrender the hydrogen bomb, right? Try to get them people to surrender, right? And
Yes, ma'am.
Governor Hunt did not. I guess it was kind of like a little chicken at the time or something, and he was the governor of North Carolina, right? And
Well, yes, yes. The plan of the terrorists, they were going to complete 35 terrorist attacks. They had a 263-pound hydrogen bomb that they had hijacked from a military base in Virginia. And it just so happened to wind up over really a buddy of mine's well shed, Willard Davis's well shed, the night of January 28th, 1998, while his son Joey Davis was en route to Birmingham in Eric Rudolph's pickup truck, and truck was en route to Mobile, Alabama, to attack the FBI field office. Wow. Which arrived at 9:17 a.m. the morning of the 29th of January 1998, which was 17 minutes after Joey attacked a new women's health care clinic there in Birmingham. It was Eric Rudolph and his colleagues, Matt McRae from the Radio Shack. They were in Murphy, North Carolina, and the brothers, Mark and Tommy Thrasher, who were the getaway drivers for that truck bomb attack, who were actually in Mobile, Alabama that morning, 17 minutes after Joey detonated the explosives that injured abortionist Emily Lyons and killed Officer Robert Sanderson of the Birmingham Police Department.
Isn't it true? Was Joey Davis the one that was the cross-dresser, or who was?
Well, yes, ma'am. He's the one that was staying across the road from his daddy's house with their boss, Dennis Hegwood, there on Flint Hill Road in the community of Brasstown, North Carolina, just across the creek from Young Harris, Georgia. The Cook family, the owners of Murphy Build Supply, Robert Francis and John Cook, they grew up with Zell Miller and his family. Really close-knit families. I don't know if they were related to each other, but they were like family. And of course, people should remember that Eric Rudolph worked for Zell Miller when he was governor of the state of Georgia. And of course, Zell Miller's widow, Shirley Carver, was president of the Federal Reserve Bank in Atlanta.
Yes.
And of course, Eric Rudolph and the sons of the Cook brothers, they were really good friends with Hunter Biden.
Right. That's when you got to come in from somewhere later on, right? And Hunter Biden and that, who was that? Eric Rudolph was in the bathroom.
Well, yeah, that was after I stopped the bomb attack at the ball ground Little League baseball game there in Cherokee County, Georgia. That was June 3rd, 1997. I always made it a point to try to do the opposite of what the terrorists told me to do. I was told if I showed up over there that ball game, they would kill me. Well, I think I'd much rather die than allow a bunch of children,
right,
Little League baseball players wind up getting killed with a bunch of spectators of a baseball game there at the old Ball Ground Elementary School.
well, thank you for you telling and getting them stopped as well.
Well,
You got already one question. Can I go ahead and ask you?
Sure.
So Eric asked, did any of them people go to jail, or what actually happened when you were able to stop the bombing?
The only one that went to jail was Eric Rudolph. The reason for that was January 29th, 1998. The Cooks had, like I said, set out this hydrogen bomb in the back of my buddy's well shed while he was at work that afternoon, and unbeknownst to him, he came home and he didn't even know that it was in his well shed. They was going to tell him at the last minute, along with their neighbors, friends, and family, to get out of Murphy. When, the National Guard, Delta Force, and FBI arrived after they attacked the FBI field office down in Mobile, Alabama. That was the plan all along, was to get media attention on Murphy, North Carolina, and start a civil war right there in Murphy, where they could rip our country apart in a revolution, civil war, and usher in their new world order.
Right. Let me say, if anybody's got any questions, now's the time, because we're just going to do this an hour in increments. So today will be just an hour, okay? But it's not going to be an everyday thing. So if you got questions, be sure to ask. One thing I want to ask you, Charles, is just the specifics of the threat when y'all had rescued the two boys that were in foster care at two different homes that went ahead and gave the kids to Bentley Farms for them to um what was that they're going to do, sacrifice them, right?
That's
So
right.
with you and Beth and Matt Darrington and Paula had that plan. I know that Beth had told Beth not to tell John Andrew, and John Andrew did tell. So that was a slap in the face, and it was like a traitor type of thing, because that was an endangering her life even more so. And we'll just go ahead and y'all, they did escape, and the boys fell to the ground. They got shot and they died. Um, Charles said he heard a buzz go by his ear, so that was one of the shots. So thank God he didn't get shot. And but when Judge McLaughlin was there, like I said, that evil judge in Cobb County, um, and he had said that that Beth Ramsey's dad was on the way over there. He did show up and showed up with John Andrew, and I'll let you go ahead and tell everybody the threats that he gave each one of y'all, okay?
Well, I'll reiterate this again. Beth and Matt was parked behind the Waffle House Unit 479 there on the corner of Greenbrier Parkway and Roswell Road there in Marietta by the 120 loop. Bentley Farms is right there on the 120 loop, North Marietta Parkway. Just down the road from where Whitewater theme park is today. And John arrived right around, I guess, right around 10 minutes after they killed the two teenagers there on Greenbrier Parkway as we crossed. I had forgot to mention during that one interview that whenever we come running up behind the Pike nursery and the BP gas station, that I saw Judge McLaughlin's brown Buick Centurion parked there on the side of the road. I tried to holler at the two boys to run up with me. I decided to cut to the right. There was a group of automobiles that was parked there on this parking pad there behind the BP. Back then, we were going to run below. But when I saw his Buick Centurion at the last spur of the moment, last second, I hollered at them to run up with me, and they continued running straight while I ran up to the right of the cars. They wouldn't listen to me at that moment. And that's what wound up getting them shot. They were right around 15 foot from where I was at when we all three ran across the road, and I heard them drop, and I heard that it sounded like a bumblebee whizzing by my head. I had when I heard them drop, I stopped immediately when I heard that go by my head. Now, according to my cousin Robert, he missed my head on purpose. But I think it's really, I stopped and he miscalculated when he pulled the trigger, me stopping, so it just barely missed my head.
Yeah.
So I don't think my cousin was trying to do me any favors as far as trying to spare my life at all.
Yeah, you're talking about Robert Beach, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. So when John came up,
it was him and Ed Bentley Jr. who shot and killed the two teenagers.
Oh man, and it's Ed Bentley that's got the Bentley Farms over there. That's got the kids that that were trafficking in there, including where I was before.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ed is also the owner, CEO of Bentley Enterprises, who manufactures the silencers for the U.S. military. So he's a DoD contractor.
Yeah, Department of Defense. Well, this goes deep, and we already know how big it's in the government right now with all these pedophile traffickers, and there's so many that's been getting away with doing these crimes against our children all over the United States. And really all over the world. It's not just here in the United States. It's all over the world going on.
Well, they have operations, to my understanding, in Louisiana, Arizona, Texas, Colorado, California. I mean, it's just this one, what we call spider web of a pedophile network in this country. It consists of businessmen, politicians, and of course, judges, lawyers, and law enforcement.
Right. And we'll get back over there to the part when John Ramsey come up, and he couldn't believe I think he said he understood why you would do it. You know, while you were trying to help them boys out, right?
Right. He didn't even know that Beth was in town. Her and Matt.
Not until John Andrew told her.
That's right. And the day before when we met, I got to meet Paula. I believe that's her name. She was best friend that she went to grammar school with when she lived in Marietta. before her parents divorced in 1978. And all three of us tried to discourage Beth from telling John Andrew anything because we all felt, and I didn't even know John Andrew, but I know that a lot of times when you have a brother, he's going to be more loyal to your parent than he is you when you're a sibling. And that's why we tried to discourage her from telling John Andrew, but she did. And that's what really got everybody killed but me. And believe me, they really did try to do away with me again numerous times after I had moved down to Pensacola, Florida, and got married and was living in Evergreen, Alabama, and pretty much reinvented myself. And of course, Judge McLaughlin totaled out that Buick Centurion of his down there during one car chase.
Right.
Where he wanted to chase my automobile into one or two old postal delivery trucks of UPS. Was in the vicinity that afternoon. And unfortunately, his head hit the vent window of the passenger door instead of hitting the brick mailbox of Grady Lynn and Willadine Rawls.
Yeah, because I heard that if his head would have hit that mailbox, it would have, exploded kind of like a watermelon.
Yeah, busted like a cantaloupe, like you said, during that raid at my house in 2013 when we discussed it. He said if his head had hit that brick mailbox, it would have busted like a cantaloupe.
Yeah, it probably would have.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it hit the vent window. If I had known that he couldn't move his right arm when he was holding his .357 Magnum, I would have just walked up to him and snatched it out of his hand. I'd probably shot him with his own gun.
Yeah.
But I did want to create a dangerous situation for the Rawlses. So I pretended like I didn't know them or Willadine, and got in my car and left instead of sticking around and reporting it, make my report to the sheriff's department, which was Connecticut County. And I thought after that point they would leave me alone. No, I was wrong about that. They really kind of made him more persistent in trying to get rid of me after he totaled out his Buick down there.
Right. Yeah, that was his love of his life, the car.
Well, that was his murder weapon.
Yeah.
There was two separate incidents in the 80s thereafter he moved to Marietta, which I think one incident before he moved to Marietta. There was some guys that had attended Wheeler High School. Everybody liked, wound up crashing their automobile while traveling at a high rate of speed one night after going out with some friends to a party. And they wound up dead, and nobody would wonder why they would be, traveling at such a high rate of speed, that late at night.
Yeah, did you see that they're drunk and just say, oh, they were drunk driving and so, that it had an accident, it's their fault, or da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah, more like trying to avoid hitting a big delivery truck while being chased by Mike McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Because when I was in the 8th grade at Maybury Middle School, I witnessed him in progress of committing a homicide on Ebenezer Road when he caused a green 1970 Chevrolet Chevelle to crash into the brick mailbox of the sister of Sheriff Bill Hudson. Of course, Sheriff Bill Hudson, he was involved as well in the child trafficking and the Atlanta child murders.
Is he deceased now, Hudson?
Yes, he passed away just I think around 5 months ago.
Oh, okay.
Joe Collier finally croaked. Now my dad used to build houses with his cousins Charles and Richard Hudson, really great guys. But I was always told when I went over there and tried to get Mike McLaughlin identified, I was told by Bill Hudson's sister I best leave it alone. So in other words, the sheriff and the Bentleys had Mike McLaughlin kill that guy in that green Chevelle after he yanked him out of the car and left with him. He took him out and executed him.
Yeah, they never had to pay for that.
No, they, when you're talking deep state, you're talking about the deep south. When you say the deep south, you're talking Georgia, you're talking the gridiron, and and of course, the plant over there at Jekyll Island in 1910 with the Rockefellers, J.P. Morgan, and that group of central bankers.
Yeah, and I remember you saying that Judge wasn't a judge at the time, and he was actually attending school in Tennessee, and he was living in Knoxville, Tennessee at the time, right?
Right. He had a. I left my school books on the couple's house that lived on the Knight Road and Ebenezer Road. And I got my bus driver to let me off there on the corner. My driveway was only about 250 feet past that on the left. It's just the bus would circle around Knight Road at Blackwell Road back up to Ebenezer and back down and let me off at my driveway. I'd be like the last student on the bus getting off when that happened. But that day I wasn't the only student that saw the incident with the crash, so I wanted to go and assist, so she let me off right there on the corner. So I had no way to write down his tag number, which I wouldn't have had time anyway when he jumped into the cop. I just knew he had a blue license plate. I thought it was Tennessee, but I wasn't certain, and that's what I told the responding officer who came out and took the report. They didn't even send an ambulance.
Right.
Which was really kind of strange and funny to me at the time, because that was the purpose of having the lady at the corner house was to contact, call for an ambulance, and they just sent a police officer.
Right.
So.
And let's get back at the chin, and John Ramsey come up and threaten y'all. Can you tell us what all he threatened each one of y'all? Like you can start with Paula, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Well, he come walking up. He was surprised to see Paula there. He was surprised to see me there and Matt there. And he looked at Beth and he asked her. He's like, Beth, what are you doing here? And she told him that she just couldn't allow any more children to die. And he looked at Matt and he asked Matt, and why he was there. And he told him that he was going to stand with Beth and anything, that she wanted. Is why he got involved. And he was like, well, you come from a good family, good Christian family. And I hate it for you, but I'm not going to let you live either. And he looked at Paula and asked her why she got involved, and she said she couldn't allow that kind of activity to happen. But when he looked at Beth, he looked at me and he goes, pointing at me, he goes, him, I can understand. Okay. I can understand him getting involved, him wanting to do something about this. But I want to know why you, of all people, would betray me.
He's the one that was the one that's betraying his own daughter by not doing right as a father should, But that's beside the point.
He also betrayed her when she was 5 or 6 years old, when he started sexually abusing her, because that's what she told her. That that it was what he had done to her when she was a child was her motivation to try to get him and the others busted.
Right.
And that's when he started pressuring her and asking her, really what was her motivation. And I think what it was John Andrew had told her plan, and that was to get them busted and Matt could finally get married, to where they could have children together, after adopting John Bonet. And so he pressured her, why? She goes, well, I couldn't sit back and allow you to do that to John Bonet. So he was like, oh, so John Bonet was your motivation. So she was reluctant to say, but yeah, she said, well, yeah, John Bonet was my main motivation. And he was like, well, I don't think you're even going to live 6 months. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind up raping John Bonet, and we're going to wind up dyeing her hair blonde and put her in these little beauty pageants that you so detest. And I'm going to wind up passing her around like a madam in a brothel before I have her killed on the 20th anniversary of that brunette that I murdered up there in Michigan back in 1976.
Yeah, that Jill Robinson, right?
Yes, ma'am. He looked at me and he goes, I might let you live a year or two, but I just don't know yet what we're going to do with you. Because he knew that I would jump at any opportunity that I could have when it comes to rescuing children. Back in 1989, I was trying to set up a program with the Cobb County school system and an awareness program for child abuse to educate the public on the various forms, including child sex trafficking. So they knew that my heart was always into advocating against child abuse of all forms. So it was no surprise to him that I was there. And of course, he, along with the Bentleys and McLaughlin, Frank Floyd, Joe Pugh, and
Motorbrains
tried to kill me on, 3 nights before my 18th birthday there back in 1983. So it was no shock to him that I was there. and they really did try to kill me again numerous times. I had 3 attempts on my life since 1975 at Bentley's brother-in-law, Jim Stubbs. Showed up there at Morganton, Georgia, where we had moved to avoid him, and tried to execute me because I didn't become a little porn star for him there in 1972 and 1973 on 2 separate occasions. So my dad had to purchase 2 cattle ranches in Morganton.
I'm showing the people right here how Jill Robinson right here, that's in Burnett. She died. She was born in '64. She died in 1976, and it was December the 26th, 1976, Nutley County, Michigan. She was shot in the. Was it shot in the head or shot in the face? Which one was it?
Shot in the face with a shotgun. That's the story he was telling my brother Fred and Roger and the other 2 technicians at Layton Graphics about the evening I met him, that they busted out laughing when he told him he shot her in the face with a shotgun. I couldn't believe my ears and eyes when I sat there and saw my brother laughing like it was, the funniest thing you ever heard. And then,
Sad.
Of course, that night over there at the Waffle House, he sat there and told Beth again that he was the one that murdered Jill Robinson. So that's twice that I had heard it out of him.
So when you go and you look up the anniversary of when John Bonet.
Yeah, John Bonet, to my understanding, after speaking with some of the people that were in Boulder during the Christmas holidays, was John Bonet was actually murdered right around 7:45 to 7:48 p.m. Christmas evening. She was not murdered in the Ramsey home. She was murdered at the corner house down the street they called the drug house. They had chased the squatters or homeless people out of that corner house because there was a series of parties on the street. Some of the neighbors, the Whites and 2 other families had thrown during the Christmas holidays. And of course, the Whites, they had a party at their house Christmas Day.
Right.
And then, of course, after John Bonet was murdered, the Ramseys hosted a party themselves at their house. And that's when some of the guests found out and couldn't believe that the parents had actually had their daughter murdered that evening. So it was a form of blackmail, really, to the tenants of the party that were not involved. Before the homicide, I think it was at the party on the 23rd December, they had taken a rope and was passing it around to the guests to handle at the party. They thought was some type of tradition, weird tradition that they had conjured up, and what it was to create group DNA on the rope that they passed it around to all the guests at the party on the 23rd.
And we can't.
And that was
and we can't.
That they used.
And we cannot tell people your source on who told you this information, but it was some of there you had talked to different ones about this, and they validated that they were there too, and yet the general public don't know that these certain people, that high profile people, were there.
Yeah, there was, actually, believe it or not, Rex Harriman was there. Eric Rudolph was there. Hunter Biden was there. The Cook brothers, except for Fred Cook, who stayed back in North Carolina to run Murphy Building Supply, while the rest of his brothers and cousins went. I mean, there was a lot of people from Marietta and Murphy, North Carolina, who went to Boulder for those, Christmas holidays. I believe it's like, what John had planned from what he had vowed to Beth there back in 1991. He said he would sell her to the highest bidder, and when she questioned that, he goes, "Oh, you don't think some of these big rich billionaires won't pay some good money to have their fun with her?" And which, of course, is to my understanding, it was because of Robert, who wound up with her with a colleague of his that he worked with at IBM, that he had also worked with the Cobb County Police Department when he was officer with the 2nd Precinct, Mark Stevens.
Yeah, she
they
was.
Both had worked their way up the corporate ladder at IBM.
That lady that ended up with Roger Nance, or was it Roger Nance, or that was raising that woman that was victimized and abused by him, and then, or was it, and then he just continued messing with his nieces and nephews too.
What was this again now?
Who was that? That was it that Roger Nance, or was it he ended up having to raise his nieces or nephews or something like that too? And
no, that was George Edward Bentley Sr., Ed
okay.
Bentley Jr.'s dad.
Okay.
What it was Jim Stubbs. He wound up becoming a grading operator for my dad in 1972, and people can find this out from the other videos. He had married George. See, the dad went by George Bentley, and the son went by Ed Bentley. But it was George Bentley Sr. and Ed Bentley Jr., George Edward Bentley.
Right.
His niece's parents had died in an automobile accident, if I remember. It was in 1953 or 54. And he wound up adopting her. And he turned around and started sexually abusing her when she was 10 years old.
Sickening.
So I don't know. I can't remember if she graduated from high school or after she graduated from Sprayberry High School. And she wound up meeting Jim Stubbs, who was from Decatur, Georgia, and who was in the Army Corps of Engineer, I believe, whenever they met. And so she thought she had her knight in shining armor when she married him, and come to find out he was just as sick, evil, and twisted as her stepdad / uncle who had adopted her. My stepdad, but adopted dad.
Right.
And I mean, I still kind of cringe over how that poor lady was brought up in the horror that she had to face, being raised by her uncle, and then, of course, marrying the likes of Jim Stubbs. Because it was an entire effort out of George, Ed, and Jim, with Jim's 5, 6-year-old daughter. She was 5 and 72 and 6 and 73. That they was trying to get me to engage in the intimate conduct with it. They could photograph or film to where they could try to set my daddy up for the production of the child pornographic material to get him sent to prison.
Right.
So that's how I got dragged into this mess to begin with. was in 1972, being the youngest child of my dad's 4 children.
Yeah, a lot of people try to say, well, you're just trying to stick your nose in where it don't belong. You just want to interfere into other people's lives and all this other kind of stuff. And you go, well, y'all the one that stuck me in this, by doing what y'all did to me. Y'all's the one that added me into the equation. It wasn't that I had willingly wanted to. It's like I knew I had to do something now,
Well, I moved to Texas when I was 18. I moved to Alabama, Florida. I had to move all around North Georgia, trying to avoid these people. So I don't sound like I'm out there trying to put my nose into anyone's affairs or anyone's business, but really trying to avoid them.
It's kind of crazy. It seems like you just about everywhere you go, you running across them again and again and again and again.
Well, yeah, they started these, after Jim's death in 1975. I was taken to this psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist, my dad had told me that there was this injection that I could take that would wipe out the memories from my traumatic experiences. Because I was, very, very good student. I was the highest in my class. I was pretty much straight A student. But in 76, they had noticed my grades had dropped a little bit down to around C average instead of A average. So that got concerned, and he took me to the psychiatrist, and they told me they could give me this injection that would eliminate, my memories from the traumatic experience of almost getting shot in the head by this guy.
Like the MK Ultra? Is this
yeah, but if I was ever given an injection of it again, it would have very little to no effect again. And of course, in 2013, they decided to invade my house and force me the injection, because if they wound up killing me, it could cause it could have caused a little blood war there in Marietta and Atlanta. Because people kept finding out the truth that I just didn't jump into this thing when I was in my late teens and early 20s, like they had been lied to and told.
Right.
They were told that I just, after I turned 18, I wanted some brownie points with the police and decided I wanted to go out and become an informant. Well, never was an informant, but that's what they were telling people. Even when I was in Murphy, North Carolina, when I was a teenager, well, the rumors started out that I was homosexual. Then when people got to see me with girlfriends, they were, oh, well, he's bisexual. Well, all of my guy friends were straight, and they're like, well, if he's bisexual, why is he hanging out with straight guys? Even a pathological liar doesn't like being lied to.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it was, even there at one point, I found out in 2018 from my oldest brother that Fred, my older brother, was out there telling people that, what I was putting in the tub with Jim Stubbs' daughter, that I was actually putting. He was telling folks that I was putting the tub with all 3 of the children, 2 boys and her. They were doing all kinds of things to me.
Okay, Eric, when he said, why didn't you stop it at happen if you were aware of everything that's going to happen? That little girl, why didn't you stop? Well, he kept trying to stop and doing and arrest you. And then What good is it when there's the police officers right there, the judge, and everything like that? It was too big for one man to be able to stop.
Yeah, this takes a group, um, and a group of armed men at that, to deal with a organization like this.
Exactly. And the thing is, when we mentioned a while ago about the die hunt, doing that about governor, putting you there as a appointed governor, we have found online, even though you do a regular search, we can't find your name. But when we found that certain link, and then it's got you listed in there, your name is right there. So, can you tell the people that link, if to the best of your knowledge, is it Signal Hire? I can't remember what it is.
Yes, it's Signal Hire. It's a Poland-based company. They provide services for portfolios and resumes. So they keep up to date all the records of all your officers of corporations, and of course, county and state governments are corporations. The United States government's a corporation, so you can pull up any corporation, whether it's Home Depot, state of California, or state of North Carolina, and they'll have the top 10 officers listed of those corporations, and that's why I'm listed as the appointed governor of the state of North Carolina.
Right. And Eric, I want to say, if it had been a regular police force where you could trust, you just go up to the police force and it'd be a good cop or good. There were other people that had even heard about it that did help him escape before from being murdered, but they even knew about it going on, and they knew that it was even too big for them.
Yeah, I even had a cousin I went to before I went over there and tried to rescue those two teenagers, and he didn't want to get involved because, and this was on my daddy's side, because he knew the magnitude of it.
Right.
So, um, um, a lot of people are wondering, well, why would a governor of a state turn around and appoint someone as governors? Well, you got to look at the factor that he was a target for February the 2nd, 1998. That if they had succeeded in attacking the FBI field office down there in Mobile, Alabama, it was going to be pinned on this militia group up there in Topton, North Carolina, Andrews, North Carolina, and of course the Cooks, the owners of Murphy Building Supply, which of course they wasn't going to be home.
Is it
whenever Delta Force and National Guard arrived to arrest them, and they were going to detonate that hydrogen bomb?
I got a question for you. Is that Andrews that you're talking about? Is that around where Andrews Air Force Base is, or where?
No, ma'am. This is Andrews, North Carolina.
Okay, see, I know nothing about a lot of this. I just hear the names and everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
I never got to study the geometry or a lot of things like that because my thing was survival. I know a lot of people probably think that was a stupid question, but like I said, my focus when I was going to school is survival. I didn't get to study and get to hear all this other kind of stuff. I just heard the names, and I wished I could have studied. I wish, I wanted to be one of the top students. But when this other stuff is going on, a matter, the trafficking, the abuse, all that other stuff. I mean, your mind is really on basically surviving, getting through day to day. It's not on what's going on in school and getting your homework done and all this other kind of stuff. Your mind is like, is this going to be the day that they actually kill me? Seriously.
Yeah. It's a day to day. what it is, because you just don't know if you're walking out of a convenience store or supermarket or
even inside the house.
Somebody's going to be sitting out in the parking lot waiting on you.
I mean, even my own house where they kept trying to do that to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, the advantage that I wound up with was, Ed Bentley and my cousin Robert, they had these $5 and $20 rewards, $5 for any kid that would fight me could get $5. If they beat me up, they'd get additional 20. And there was a couple who got the additional 20, but there wasn't many. And of course, in 1985, I got recruited and drafted into training at the YMCA there at Springfield Crossing for professional kickboxing. So I wound up getting some training in Taekwondo and fighting for kickboxing. So that was very, very significant in survival and avoiding abductions, and and many times I had to I've put a lot of these guys in ICUs with broken jaws and cheekbones and stuff like that. Were going to jump on me, and I guess sometimes tried to abduct me, and it just didn't work out too good for them.
Right.
And then, of course, there's a body count of 24 up there in Western North Carolina of those who were going to kill me. And, in 1999, over this mess, who wanted this mess to go down up there in Western North Carolina that nobody else wanted. And they wound up getting killed by some of their own family members. And of course, Frank Sheldon, Andrea Strassmeyer, and Dave Holloway of CIA, they were all killed pretty much at the same time when they tried to kill me up there on the 23rd of September, 1999. And of course, Robert Miller, the leader of the militia out there in Elohim City, brought a caravan of his delinquents out there to Andrews to claim all three of their bodies and kill me. And they got up there and they were outnumbered and outgunned. So they left Frank Sheldon's body there and took the other two bodies back to Elohim City, and that's where Andrea Strassmeyer and Dave Holloway are buried at today. There in Oklahoma.
It's kind of funny how many times somebody could die twice.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I kind of upset some people over there at Andrews when I kind of cracked my joke. I said, well, how do you write up a report of executing a dead man,
Is he supposedly died over there around the Netherlands or New Amsterdam, or where was that?
Yeah, he faked his death in the Netherlands on July the 9th, 1996, got him a fake death certificate. But he was very much in Murphy, North Carolina, there after the 11th September of 96, when Mike Cook's first wife, Rhonda, wound up stabbed in the legs. And, of course, supposedly I was the one who did it. And Frank, he went by Frank Torrey.
That was another name?
Yeah, I was one of his aliases, Frank Torrey, but Frank Sheldon. Doug McGray told me his name was Frank Sheldon. And he's for the week before I went down to Atlanta to claim postery for Easy Rental that week from the 9th of September. Doug had told me he had his buddy Frank coming in the next week. He wanted me to meet, and I wound up, of course, that Monday morning finding out that I had a ton of upholstery to claim for Easy Rental. And I made a good chunk of money, right around $1,800 that week, just cleaning upholstery. But what was funny was on September 11th, Drug Task Force Commander Mark Thigpen ran the tag number of the Dodge pickup truck that was still registered in Alabama. And there I was down in College Park, Georgia, cleaning upholstery for Easy Rental. So they went through with a fake attack of Rhonda and tried to set me up for that and the Centennial Park attack. They had actually, when I got back to my office on the 17th or 18th of September, whatever the Monday was, and I had to go up to the Cherokee County Jail and talk with Lock 'em Up Eddie Harden. They had actually went over there and opened up the camper of my pickup truck and put some of the wire that they used to build the explosives for the Centennial Park attack into the box that I had all my supplies that I carried for, customers and stuff like that. Want to set me up for both the fake attack of Rhonda Cook and the Centennial Park attacks. Well, Sheldon was going to oversee my execution in the county jail. Is why it was in Murphy. So everybody was shocked when I walked out of that jail without being charged, because Eddie Harden had a 100% arrest record. If you went to that jail to talk with Eddie Harden, or was told to go to that jail and talk to him, you were going to jail. After you talked to him.
It hasn't been over an hour yet. Did you want to end that? I want to let everybody say, look at the screen right quick. This is the Mark Thigpen, Cherokee County, North Carolina Sheriff's Department. It's with the former Drug Task Force Commander. Here's your
he
picture.
Was also Chief Deputy of Cherokee County until 2022, and his wife had a cell phone that belonged to the Sheriff's Department she was using. So Derek Palmer, who was sheriff, wound up terminating him from the Sheriff's Department.
Right. Would you like to pick a certain day to be able to come in here to answer people's questions, or a certain day of the week?
We can. What we can do is a 2 for Tuesday deal, 2 hours on the Tuesday instead of a 1 hour on the Sunday.
Okay.
And that way people get all the
yeah, we know Eric, you're talking about John Bonet, the little girl. Yeah, because she was being trafficked in that place. Okay, she was being trafficked, so there was nothing Charles could do. That big trafficking organization, like he said, he needs a lot more people to have went in there and done something, because there you got Cobb County Police. You got, even they're affiliated with the ones in Colorado as well. There's nobody that he could have genuinely went to try to help. Look how he tried to rescue these 2 boys out. You see what happened? They ended up getting killed. There was a police officer that was in with the killing. There was a judge, Cobb County, that was in with the killing when they tried to help these people escape. These 2 boys escaped from that barn where they kept kids hostage in there. Okay, so just for that and the fact that he killed his own daughter Beth, you're going into, when you got jobs such as Department of Defense and all that. I mean, this is pretty dang big. He's not the only one that works with the Department of Defense. There were a couple others that you mentioned too, right, Charles?
That's right. I mean, there was, according to Victor Hanson's daughter, him, and of course, Ed Bentley Jr., he's DOD contractor, that, like I said, makes the silencers for the U.S. military. Of course, General Electric, Motorola, Home Depot. They were the ones that, and Polaroid were the ones who chipped in with John to develop the microfilm computer hardware for the United States government that's used in all the courthouses across the country when they downloaded onto microfilm. And that's really where John made his fortune, was first developed in the microchip computer hardware in 1981, 82, and then in 1983, they had to come out with microfilm because the government shut down the micro production in the United States in 1984.
Right.
But the beautiful part of it is some of the people who were associated with the terrorists, once they found this stuff out in 2005, that I just didn't jump up in my 20s and decided I was going to do my civic duty, that I had been dragged into this mess since I was a child. They helped me get the evidence. And what the evidence was a diary. And the reason why I can say her name now is because she's deceased. And that was a 13-year-old runaway. Candace McCarthy from Sandy Springs, who kept a diary. And the guy that was sex trafficking her, we didn't know what his name was. We went by Gotti. Well, turned out to be Antonio Ramirez Cardenas. Well, the reason why Antonio Ramirez Cardenas got busted, well, because he was in partnership with Jeff Epstein and John Ramsey and the Bentleys and the rest of the bunch.
It'd be so good for these other ones to be caught too, like John Ramsey and the rest of the bunch too. Judge McLaughlin, the Bentleys, Doug McRae, Duncan, Sam Duncan, and all them others, even the women that's affiliated. There are a lot of women that are in it too over there.
Well, a federal agent approached me over there at the Marriott Square in 2005, and we had our little discussion. And he told me, okay, well, you get to pick one of the operatives that you're familiar with, and we'll go pick them up and charge them with a sponge. Well, my first choice was John Ramsey. And he goes, no, he's untouchable. Who else?
Wow.
And I couldn't remember Epstein's last name. I knew his name was Jeffy. And I said, I want that doggone hairbrain that I saw up there in the damn Huddle House the day after the Centennial Park attack there in Blairsville, Georgia, with that little 14-year-old figure skater from Atlanta, whose mom's from Nantahala. And you go, what, Jeff Epstein? He knew exactly who I was talking about. Because if I could get Jeff Epstein, then I could get Eric Rudolph squeeze Ghislaine Maxwell. Because she was also Jeff Epstein's squeeze.
Right.
And I really wanted her because the three girls that I interviewed there in September of 1999, I interviewed Jen. She was 17 years old at the time, and bless her heart, beautiful lady. She's in her 40s now, never married. Beautiful lady. She was a figure skater. Her daddy, I'm not going to say what business he worked in. He was from Alpharetta, and her mom from Nantahala, North Carolina.
Right.
But she was madly in love with Eric Rudolph. She would have killed over Eric Rudolph.
Yeah, that's what happens sometimes. But you start falling for your.
Well, there was this 12-year-old girl. I was told whenever I met with her not to tell her about the other two girls. There was a 12-year-old I interviewed in '99. She was 9 years old. Little blue-eyed blonde, cute as a button, and reminded me a lot of John Bonet. So when I met and talked with her, I was like, if I was up at Deep Creek or something and saw you on the trail, I probably would have a friendly conversation with you, but could not imagine someone my age of wanting to even try to do something with you at the age that you are now. And she was like, yeah, I can't understand it either, and just a real pretty little blue-eyed blonde. And then there was the one that was 15. She was a brunette. Everybody want to make sure that, that the oldest one didn't find out about her, because she would want to try to kill her. Well, when she found out that Eric was involved also in the homicide of 11-year-old Levi Frady, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and her wanting anything to do with Eric Rudolph after that. And then, of course, she found out that he was also involved in the homicide of John Benet Ramsey. And let's not forget the West Memphis 3 homicides: Stevie Branch, Michael Moore, and Christopher Byers. They're in West Memphis, Arkansas in 1994. And that's when Eric was recruited into this death cult.
I appreciate you doing this, and that you we'll try to do this again if I can get that other thing. Hey, Angel Light.
Well, I would like the word get over to Pat Murphy and to Eric Rudolph's sister Mara. I've always had the utmost respect for those two ladies. Pat Murphy, after she lost her husband Robert to cancer, another individual I got a lot of respect for was Tom Flanagan. He's the one who convinced her to move the family up there to Topton, North Carolina, to begin with.
Right.
And I've always had the utmost respect for Tom. Mara, very, very, very nice lady. Her mother brought her up right. Pat really tried to raise her sons to be really upstanding, law-abiding citizens. And I don't know about that one son that lives out in Nashville, but Jamie, he still lives with his boyfriend up in Manhattan. Daniel, whatever, kicked him out of North Carolina there in 1999. He moved to South Carolina and stayed with Rex Harriman's brother for a while till he got straightened out. So there are just no telling how many women and children they're going to find out that are connected to Richard Ebenetz, Rex Harriman, Israel Keys, my brother Fred Rogers, Robert Beach, Judge McLaughlin, because Judge McLaughlin is one of the I-70 serial killers. He was involved with Frank Floyd in the 1981 homicide of 28-year-old Mary Carter of Cincinnati, Ohio. And they murdered that
little
lady
boy
in front of her two daughters, right in front of her two daughters. Judge McLaughlin was the one who actually killed her.
Wow.
Now, John Ramsey and Doug McRae and Frank Sheldon were there. Getting drunk, doing drugs when Floyd brought her over there. Now, Ramsey pulled in behind them as she was about to try to leave with her two daughters, and of course, Ramsey kept her from leaving. but it was actually McLaughlin who actually murdered her when he was sexually assaulting her in front of her two daughters. That's why they didn't kill her two daughters, but when they took her and put her body out there near that intersection, whatever highway or road that was, where the motorists saw her at, I'm really hoping they're still alive and well, and that they can identify Mike McLaughlin as the primary perpetrator in her murder.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, when they went and posed her like that, so they had to still continue looking at a dead mama,
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like I spoke with a detective down there in Hilton Head, South Carolina, where they went down there and killed 18-year-old Jennifer Olson. This girl, she had it in her mind in 1989 that when she got with me, we were going to get married and she was going to have my children.
You had a girlfriend at the time, so
yeah, I was dating her best friend at the time, but her attitude was like, well, you two are going to break up eventually, then you're going to be mine. She was a sweetheart. I mean, I almost just fell in love with her just from her flattery. I mean, they both worked at the Burger King. That still rips me every once in a while when I think about that, because everybody loved her. Everybody, I don't think she had one enemy. Everybody liked her. She graduated from Lassiter High School.
Yeah, and that's why they basically killed her, because of liking you so much, right?
Well, yeah, Fred and Roger came over there one day when we were having lunch together, Candy and her and I, and I think they was going to kill my girlfriend. And then when they sat there and she sat there and told them that she was my future wife, they were like a little confused. Well, thought Candy was his girlfriend. Well, she is right now, but eventually they're going to break up. And once I get on him, he's not going to want to look at another woman once I get with him.
Boy.
And I mean, she was persistent. She'd come out there, well, are you two about ready to break up yet?
Well, she spoke her mind, didn't she?
She was. Did she? If she had something to say, she wouldn't say it behind your back. That's for sure.
Yeah.
She was plain talk, easiest understood. I remember one day I came in there to have lunch, and I went to the restroom and come out. And she goes, "You just need to break up with her now." I'll be your girlfriend, and you will never want to look at another woman once you get with me. I mean,
she was so in love with you, huh?
Yeah, she shocked the daylights out of me and sat there and said it again in front of my girlfriend.
Did your girlfriend act upset?
No, she just laughed. They were best friends.
Right.
And so she was just sitting there and laughed. There was nothing to it. She wasn't a jealous girlfriend. One thing I never could be around would be a jealous girlfriend.
Right.
I had a few of those in my life, and I couldn't get out of those relationships fast enough.
Yeah.
And she was a sweetheart. I forgot how many they said went down there and killed her. They used Richard Evanet's mom's house.
You said her name was Jennifer Olson?
Yes, ma'am. Because Richard's mother lived about around 80 miles from Hilton Head, so that's wouldn't have to drive all the way from Marietta. And they didn't want to get a motel there in Hilton Head that could be traced back. So Rick Richard was in the Navy, active duty at the time, so he convinced his mother to let Roger to go over there and stay until he could locate her family down there in Hilton Head. Then, of course, he called up my brother Fred, and Fred called my cousin Robert. They got Mike McLaughlin. And I think Rex Harriman, I can't say this for certain or not, I think Rex was also involved as well in her homicide.
I see Elizabeth Olsen is Killer Kitty. Oh, let's see. Trying to find her, but it says Jennifer. There she is. No, but that's a chubby one. I don't think it's the one that's her. No, it's outside of school. It's a chunky girl. They're trying to find out. I mean, in here, you know what I mean, online when I'm looking her up, so that I can show so I can show the picture to people, you know, here.
I could send you
Okay, so we'll have to. Y'all remember Jennifer Olsen, and I think you did an awesome job. Hello, Jonna. Good to see you. Yeah, we're cutting it. We're just going to do an hour today, but we went a little bit more than an hour. And so I guess you said we'll try to see you Tuesday then? Oh, wait a minute. She got one. She got one question if you want to see right quick, okay?
Okay.
Okay. Jonna asked, do this guy's brother and father was bad, right? Didn't understand from yesterday's video. The guy's brother, are you talking about John Ramsey, Andrew and Burke, or who you talking about? Or John Ramsey? Yeah, he was bad, if that's who you're talking about. And Burke was not bad. And Charles wants to tell everybody to stop pointing your finger at Burke.
Yeah, Burke.
Question to this guy's brother and father. No, his father was not bad. Charles's father was not bad. It was only his brother, and then I think it was several cousins and such as that, right?
My one cousin. That was my one cousin, Robert Beach, on my mother's side.
And it's spelled B.
He was adopted. And he was adopted, so he's really not blood kin. And of course, Robert and my brother Fred wound up poisoning his brother Wayne there in 2007. Now, they said it wasn't with ethylene glycol, which tells me when they said it wasn't with ethylene glycol, you pretty much take it to the bank. It was with ethylene glycol.
That's right, Hannah. Thank God somebody is defending Bert finally. Bert's probably too scared about telling because look, his sister got killed for trying to help, right? You think, and then his other sister died, the one that's full blooded? I mean, that kid's got to be scared to death of even trying to speak out,
Well,
did the father know? Did his father know what was going on? Yes, his father did, and his father did try to protect Charles on numerous occasions, and like Stubbs, who had done this certain thing to him, trying to get him involved because of Bentley Farms guy was there trying to videotape to blackmail Charles's dad because he didn't like his dad being a competition with him being a fielder. So he wanted to try to set him up and saying that he's got this, kind of blackmail about.
Well, no, they were going to set him up, send him to prison, and get him out of the picture.
So okay, that's what they were going to do. Yeah. And yet they were the one doing that.
Any blackmail to it. They were going to try to send my daddy to prison for child molestation and child pornography.
And yet they were the ones just trying to do the pictures and everything, and then I remember you saying that they made that little girl get out of the bathtub with you when you had asked her, said, how'd you know how to do all this? Who taught you this? And, my daddy. And so he kind of got mad,
Yeah. Well, yeah, he got really upset when I started asking her questions because, you're talking about a 6-year-old acting like an adult. asking questions an adult would ask, and that upset him. But he had promised me earlier that evening, after he made that statement at the dinner table, that if I hadn't agreed to take a bath with her, he would immediately yank me up from the dinner table and take me outside and beat me in the head with a shop hammer.
Plus, you even had
my parents that I ran off.
Plus, he even the boys, the brothers to that girl, had even told you beforehand that you're going to want to take a bath, and you ain't going to want to say no and stuff. So you had the prior warning from her brothers too before he had asked you that. So, in a way, that was good that they did.
Well, yeah, they was using Jim Stubbs' children in child pornography, and they weren't the only children. I forgot one of the local girls' names that I went to elementary school that they had also used, and she survived. Her family, I guess, had allowed it to happen, is the reason why they didn't get rid of her.
Right.
They're still over there. They got Bentley Lake Road blocked off right now. They're at Barnes Mill Road from public access to where they can go down there and try to remove all the skeletal remains that they buried down there for over the past 60 plus years.
So what he's saying with this, y'all, they're trying to remove it. Not the police, not the good people, okay? Not the good people trying to get the proof about the skeletons buried back there, okay? They're trying to cover their own butts, and they're being allowed to go and dig and to cover up their own butts, okay? They're being allowed, y'all. Come on, Trump, go stop it. Go, come on now, buddy. Come on there.
Yeah, I mean, there would be, like I said, 2 hours for Tuesday. We could get into the Bernie Barnes, the Bentley Farm, the newspaper articles of the Marietta Daily Journal and all that, to where people can get a full understanding exactly what is going over there in Marietta right now.
Yeah, it's amazing how many times their barns are burned, and then they just were re-erected the next day, and they expect people not to realize that's a different building, even though it's a shade cut, different color or something like that. They're like, oh, it never burned down. Look, it's back up,
Well, you got all the commuters for the past 40 years. They're on the 120 loop that's passed by and seen those barns repeatedly burned numerous times, not burned down. And you got people that lived in Marietta whose homes have burned down because the fire department wasn't there in enough time to put out the fire. So go figure.
And I still think, but I'll just say this, and I think we need to go ahead and go, because I think it's really amazing when you go back and you read the article. Y'all look at Bentley Farms, the fires over there in what part of Georgia is that?
It's
Marietta. And look up Alice Summer, and you'll see that the fires, that it was kind of funny because both times this article, 2 different articles I read on the Bentley Farms burning, and she said, well, the horses were not in the horse stable. I don't really understand why they weren't, and at night you would think that the horses would be in the stables, right? But, so a lot of that just did not. So that was like a setup type of thing, and making sure the horses weren't in there when it was going to be burnt down.
Yeah, that right there should let everybody know that they're the ones burning their own barns. There's nobody going to go over there and do that family a favor and burn down a barn when the horses aren't in their stables.
Yeah, I was there one time when they tore down the fence, after that one of the little boys was injured and was either shot in the chest, or I think he was shot in the chest, because I didn't hear the gun. I didn't hear whatever. I just seen him run by me. I seen the blood on his chest, and then I seen him collapse on that fence.
Well, they're trying to say that the barn that you saw that was built out of concrete burned down. They're trying to say that those horse stables that were built out of concrete burned down.
We don't know where they're all buried. We don't know where they're all buried.
Up there. They're buried up there off this bank off of Barnes Mill Road. I know where they're buried.
But a lot of the kids still were not buried there because some of the ones that, like I saw hanging up on the hooks and stuff like that, they were sold. Their bodies were sold.
The ones that died was taken out there and buried, and there was even adults that were held in there. I mean, they don't discriminate between child nor adult.
When they drained the blood and everything, and the kids were wrapped up in the plastic wrap up there, that was for them getting it ready to be shipped off somewhere,
Yeah, that's freaky. I'm just thankful I wasn't able to see that.
Unfortunately, I did.
Yeah, well, I'm just glad I wasn't able to see that aspect of it.
And when I remembered it, man, I went through another deep depression. I swore several years ago I didn't wasn't going to be suicidal again. But when I remembered that, I mean, it put me down into a deep depression, man, seeing all that, man.
There's no telling what I would have done through the years if I had seen something of that magnitude.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have probably been killed trying to kill Ed Bentley Jr. and or his daddy.
Well, you know who my handler was without saying anything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining in. Thank you again for having me on your program, Ms. Clark. And
you're welcome, and thank you so much.
If everybody's wanting to know about the Epstein flight logs, that's the least of it. A lot of those people were blackmailed. What we're doing is we're releasing the identities of his partners in child sex trafficking, the real people that were involved in domestic terrorism, from the Oklahoma City bombing to the January 29th, 1998 attempted truck bombing at the FBI field office. So,
and that's who we're talking about today. They're responsible for that too.
Yes, and it's actually Operation Long Line and Operation Child Safe Neighborhoods. Those were the two operations that I was actually able to help the Fulton County District Attorney's Office and the FBI launched in 2005.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you saying all this. Thank you for going and protecting the kids and doing. I know that even when Beth was alive, that you was going to try your dangest to try to get to her to keep her and Matt safe and all. And I'm sorry that they lost her life like that because she was a good friend to you too.
Yeah, they were up there south of Chicago, and of course Ramsey had just purchased that house out in Boulder.
Uh-huh.
And I was just told Colorado. I didn't know what part of Colorado until I saw the news that it was Boulder.
Right.
And when JonBenét was murdered.
I will. Jonna said, well, London, she got to replay this is interesting. Please have him as a guest again. Yeah, I think he's talking about possibly doing it Tuesday. I've got to figure out that new site that I'm going to Restream. That's where I would be going to try to do it because I don't want to keep on with StreamYard. I'm very dissatisfied with StreamYard right now. So I got to just learn that new program. So y'all bear with me because I'll be learning when I when I do that live. So please try to have patience with me, please.
All right. Well, everybody have a wonderful day, and hopefully Tuesday we can do a 2 hour, 2 for Tuesday, 2 hours for Tuesday.
Does that sound good to y'all? And it's usually at 12:05 when we do it.
Uh-huh.
And it's 12:05 Central Time and 1:05 Eastern. Y'all have a great day and the rest of the weekend, and may God bless each and every one of y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you, Charles.